Crimson Web knives are one of the most in-demand knife skins in all of Counter-Strike. These rare items have a beautiful black and red color scheme that looks incredible. The factory new versions are insanely rare and come with an insane price tag, more than most cars in some instances. Today I wanted to compile every Crimson Web knife in the game, go over their pricing and when they were introduced, and hopefully teach you a little more about these beautiful knives. The Bayonet Crimson Web is one of the most iconic knife skins in all of Counter-Strike. It was added with the original weapon case, and as such is one of the most OG knives in the world. The problem with any Crimson Web knife is that they tend to show a ton of wear, which means minimal wear and factory new are always going to be the most desirable conditions by far. A battle-scarred Crimson Web just leaves a lot to be desired. If you want to pick up one of these for yourself, then be prepared to spend a pretty penny. A factory new version costs about $3,000. While minimal wear is sitting at around $515. Well worn is actually the cheapest float on this currently with an average price of $275. I really feel like the Bowie knife is a bit underrated at the moment. It has a huge blade and a clean animation that looks great with most skins. The Crimson Web is definitely no exception, as this is one of the best hosts to really showcase the Crimson Web patterns. Since the blade is so large, however, the float you get on these is even more crucial than other knives. This was added to the game with the Operation Wildfire case and has become one of the most expensive Bowie knives since its introduction. Currently, a factory new Bowie knife will cost you about $1.5 thousand, while a well-worn version sits at about $175. The minimal wear on this is about $275, which would be your best bang for your buck to have one of your own. I really feel like the Butterfly has to be the best knife in Counter-Strike. It has the best animation, and the pricing has made them a very exclusive club to be a part of. The Crimson Web is especially sick, with a black and red theme that makes most players feel a rush of endorphins. It does look pretty solid in minimal wear, but obviously factory new is going to look better alongside an insane price tag. It is a part of the Operation Breakout case, and currently a factory new version costs about $5,000, while the cheapest is Battle-Scarred at $911 respectively. The classic knife has been in the game since its addition in the CS2 case, and the Crimson Web was added with its original introduction. It does look pretty clean, and I do think this is one of my favorite animations on the newer knives. The Crimson Web does look pretty great on this knife, and minimal wear ones aren't too horrible price-wise. A minimal wear version right now is going for about $340 as of today, while factory new is currently at about $1.7 thousand respectively. The Falchion knife has been gaining popularity with collectors as it starts to become one of the older knives added into the game. The Crimson Web version has been in the game since the Knife's edition with the Falchion case back in 2016, and it actually hasn't gone up in price as much as other Crimson Web knives have. Currently, even a factory new version can be had for just under $1,000, which isn't bad compared to most of them. A minimal wear version is currently sitting at about $252, while the cheapest version is Battle-Scarred at about $155. The flip knife is a community staple with a cult following that pretty much worships it. It does have a pretty sweet animation, and I'm a fan of how the Crimson Web flip knife features the black handle. This skin is a part of a ton of different cases, but was first seen in the original CSGO weapon case. Despite being in 11 different cases, the price on these is still pretty inflated, with factory new costing about $2,000 at the moment, with minimal wear costing about $500, and the cheapest wear Battle-Scarred costing around $225. The gut knife has to be one of the most underrated knives in the game. It has a sweet animation, and I think the Crimson Web does look great on this knife. I know it does get its fair share of criticism, which is fair, but even the usual ugly orange handle is replaced with a better black version on this skin. It is also a part of 11 different cases like most OG Crimson Web knives, and has been in the game since the original weapon case. A factory new version costs about $620 as of today, and the cheapest version is well worn at just over $100. Minimal wear does look decent and is just $167, which makes it one of the cheaper Crimson Web knives. The Huntsman Knife Crimson Web is a super clean red and black knife with a clean animation and large blade to show off the patterns. It is only available in the Huntsman case, which has made this a pretty rare skin to be unboxed at all. The pricing for these honestly isn't too bad, and with the factory new costing about the same as a Falchion at $1,000, I think this is the best bang for your buck Crimson Web knife. Minimal wear is sitting at $315 as of today, and the cheapest version is field tested at $170. The Karambit Crimson Web is definitely one of the most iconic knives in the game. One thing about this that makes it different is that usually minimal wear on a Crimson Web ends up looking fine, but on these, one of the only way to have a totally clean blade is to have a factory new one. This has pumped the price up a bit because of its increased demand, and ever since its introduction in the CSGO weapon case, it has been one of the most expensive Crimson Web knives. The factory new version goes for about $5,500, while even minimal wear is still sitting at $1,300. The cheapest version of this knife is battle scarred at nearly $700. The Kukri is the newest knife in Counter-Strike that was added with the kilowatt case. The pricing on these is still incredibly skewed just due to it being new, and as far as I can find, there haven't even been enough factory new versions sold to really get an idea of what these will end up costing on the open market. Anytime a knife is new, it has inflated prices due to its novelty, but over time, we will see this settle into a standard price. I also think that it's hard to know what these will end up costing because the kilowatt case is still new, and if it stays as a free drop for a long time, then it's possible these will become much more common. The M9 Bayonet Crimson Web is currently the most expensive Crimson Web knife in the game for a factory new version. It is a fan favorite with a large blade and a very clean animation that the community adores. I do think the Crimson Web version does look pretty clean, and overall is one of the better looking skins on the knife. It has also been in the game since the original weapons case, which makes it an insane OG skin that has had over a decade to become iconic. The cost on these for a factory new version is sitting at around $6,100 US, while the cheapest version is battle scarred at $650. The minimal wear version is also pretty expensive at $1,300 respectively. The Navaja knife is usually the cheapest knife in any particular skin pattern. It doesn't have the greatest animation and has really become the gut knife equivalent of the newer knife skins added to the game. The cool thing about this is that if this design really resonates for you, then you have the path to some of the cheapest high-end skins in the game. Even on this, a factory new Crimson Web that usually is near $1,000 on most knives is currently sitting at $400. The cheapest wear is battle scarred at just over $100, but even minimal wear is only $150 as of today. This was added with the Horizon case, and I think it will stay somewhat deflated compared to the rest of the knives due to its style. The Nomad knife is like a flip knife on a steroid treatment. It has a bigger blade and a pretty cool animation that some people are crazy for. It was added with the shattered web case and has been in an interesting spot as a mid-tier knife ever since. The Crimson Web pattern on these knives does give it a unique, clean look that looks great with a red inventory. I personally don't want to pay the prices for these, but I understand why some people would. A factory new version today will cost you about $2,500, while the cheapest is battle scarred at $250. A solid minimal wear version currently is about $600, but still, this is a pretty pricey knife for what it is. Paracord knives were added to the game with the shattered web case, like quite a few knives. I do love how the Paracord looks with the Crimson Web pattern, and overall, if this knife had just a bit more going on with its animation, it would be one of my favorites. These aren't too insanely priced due to its anticlimactic animations, but still a factory new version will cost you about $4,000, while minimal wear is sitting at just $270. The cheapest version of this knife is a battle scarred version for around $150. The Shadow Daggers are a criminally underrated knife that has been a part of the game since the Shadow case. I think the fact these knives were bugged for a few years has helped to keep them pretty low price-wise, and these can be picked up for a pretty reasonable amount. Minimal wear, which does look pretty good, costs only about $150 right now, while the cheapest wear is well worn at just over $100. If you really want to get yourself a factory new version, then those are still just under the $500 mark. I think the Stiletto Crimson Web is one of the best looking stiletto skins in the game. While this skin is divisive, I think the animation and unique blade style are pretty cool. I also like how on the Crimson Web skins, any wooden handle is turned black just to increase the look a bit. These were added with the Horizon case, and currently a factory new version is listed on the market for about $2,300, while minimal wear is sitting at $500 respectively. If you really wanted to rock a beat stiletto, then the cheapest option available is the battle-scarred version at about $315. The survival knife is really hit or miss in terms of how people feel about it. I feel like it has so much potential, but really leaves a lot to be desired with its animations and style. I do think the Crimson Web pattern does look pretty good on these skins, but overall, these have turned into the definition of a mid-tier knife in my mind. Thankfully, the price kinda reflects this, with minimal wear costing about $250, and the cheapest wear is battle scarred at about $150. If you really are in demand of a factory new one, then those obviously are a bit more expensive at about $1,800 today. Talon knives have definitely become the most popular of the newer knives added into Counter-Strike. They give a good competitor to the Karambit, while also having a unique style. It was added to the game in Horizon case, and I do like how the Crimson Web skin changes the Talon handle to black instead of ivory. If you want to get yourself a factory new version of this, then you have to prepare for a pretty insane cost. They are currently selling for about $4,700 on the open market. Minimal wear is sitting at $700, and the cheapest version is battle scarred at $380. The Ursus knife is one of my favorite knife skins in the game. The Crimson Web really does make the box cutter look great. Ever since this was added in the Horizon case, I personally have been rocking one in minimal wear that looks great, and thankfully these haven't gone full butterfly knife and skyrocketed too much. A factory new version is around $2,700, and a minimal wear version sits at about $340. The cheapest wear available is battle scarred at just under $200 currently on the market. Those are all of the Crimson Web knives currently in CS2. If there is another one released, then we will for sure update this video, but if you enjoyed it, you should be sure to press the like button and comment down below.